Okay, sure. I'll start at 6:50. Okay. So what you can see in this picture, මොකද මේ picture එකෙන් කියවෙන්නේ? Yes. What you can see accounts receivables. Okay, yeah, gathering evidences, vouching, good. That's all. Account receivable के spelling salary के लिए पहनना है. Here. Okay, so you can see a person, so he is looking at certain documents, maybe collecting evidences for the purpose of auditing, and then maybe doing vouching as well. Okay, good. Okay, so actually why I have taken this picture is because this has accounts receivables. Okay, so we discuss about this impairment where a lot of professional judgment is used. Okay, in the impairment calculation, we have to use the professional judgment in computing the impairment. Okay, so then what do you call as a professional judgment? Okay, මොකද්ද මේ professional judgment කියලා define කරන්න. Yeah, so you can see it is the application of relevant training, knowledge, and experience. Okay, within the context of professional standards in making decisions about the course of actions that are appropriate in the design, implementation, and operation of the firm's system of quality management. Okay, so here for this purpose of this quality management framework, how we define the professional judgment is the partners, okay, using maybe partners, for example, using their training, knowledge, and experience, okay, to actually implement a better system of quality management within the firm. Okay, මේකේ හොඳ quality management system එකක් implement කරන්න partners basically they are using their experience and the knowledge. Okay, that's what you call as professional judgment in the context of this standard. Okay, මේ standard එකට අදාළව අපි professional judgment කියලා define කරන්නේ. Okay, so then can you do this question? What does professional judgment in auditing primarily involve? A, B, C, or D? Okay, is it B? Let's see. Relying on only on the previous audit experience, no, that is wrong. So that usually does by the trainees as well. They just looked into what the previous year's auditors did and they roll forward the same. That is wrong. Okay, you should think something new. Okay, so anyway, this is wrong. Rely on previous year's audit evidences. That is totally wrong. And then applying relevant training, knowledge, and experience to make informed decisions seem to be like correct. Let's see. And following a fixed set of rules for every audit engagement. Okay, that is wrong. Okay, because we can't follow the same audit procedures as we perform for manufacturing organization to bank. Okay, manufacturing organization මේකට perform කරපු audit procedures අපිට කියලා bank එකක් හරි service organization එකකට හරි perform කරන්න බෑ. ignoring firm policies when making audit decisions. That is wrong. Okay, the correct one is B. Okay, good. Then we have few more definitions to be discussed. මේවා කියන්න ළමයි මේවා නැතුව මේ standard එක explain කරන්න බෑ. Then we have something called professional standards. Okay, so professional standards are the engagement standards issued by CS Sri Lanka as defined in the CS Sri Lanka's preface to Sri Lanka Quality Control, Auditing, Review, other assurance and related service pronouncement and relevant ethical requirements. Basically, the standards issued by CS Sri Lanka on performing auditings and related services and quality control and fulfilling the ethical requirements. We call that as a professional standards. And we have this relevant ethical requirements. Okay, so basically what do you call as ethics? Ethics කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? අපි හැමතිස්සෙම කියනවනේ ethical වෙන්න ඕනේ. So auditors should be ethical. What do you mean by ethics then? Ethics කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Overall management ඉගෙනගෙන ඇති. Would think that person should follow. Would do the right thing. Always need to do correct thing. Okay, very good. How nothing? Right. Huh? Yes. Okay, so that simply says what are the good things and what are the wrong or the bad things. Okay, මොනවද කරන්න හොඳ සහ මොනවද නොකරන්න ඕන කියන එක basically කියනවා this ethics වලින්. Okay, so this not being biased. Okay, so that is an ethical requirement. අපි audit එකක් කරද්දී අපි bias වෙන්න බෑ. Okay, if you be biased so that you're you're not fulfilling the ethical requirements, right? So these ethical requirements to which the engagement team and the engagement quality control reviewer are subject, which ordinarily comprise parts A and B of the Code of Ethics of Professional Accountants issued by CA Sri Lanka. Okay, so then so CA Sri Lanka has issued these for the Code of Ethics. Okay, so being so those are the relevant ethical requirements to be fulfilled by the engagement partner and the engagement team members and the EQCR as well. Okay. එතන මේ ethical requirements සාමාන්‍යයෙන් issue කරන CS Sri Lanka ඒවට adhere වෙන්න ඕනේ the engagement team. Yeah. And if you use any staff members as well. That I explained these quality objectives and the quality risks previously, therefore I'm not going to take that again. Okay. Okay. So then we'll move to the scope. Okay. Scope in the sense to whom this particular standard is applicable. This SLSQM1 actually deals with the firm's responsibility to design, implement and operates a system of quality management for it's not only for audits but also for reviews of the financial statements of other assurance or related service engagement. Okay, මේවා අදාළ වෙන්නේ audit එකට විතරක් නෙමෙයි, that is also relevant to the audits or reviews of financial statements and to other assurance or non-assurance engagement. Okay, or related service engagement. Okay, तर මතක තියාගන්න මේක අදාළ වෙන්නේ audit firms වලට විතරයි. Okay, other firms වලට this is not applicable. Okay, so this standard explains you the firm's responsibility to implement a quality management framework within the organization. Okay, so quality මේ standard එකෙන් කියනවා company එකක් කොහොමද audit firm එකක් කොහොමද quality control framework එකක් implement කරන්නේ කියලා. How they develop and they should implement. Okay, so there is no exemption of applying this audit standard, this SLSQL. අපි පොඩි audit firm එකක් අපිට මේව ඕනේ නැහැ කියලා කියන්න බෑ. Okay, regardless of the size, all the audit firms should apply this auditing, this SLSQL. Okay, so small audit firms can't say we are small audit firms and we are not getting much big audits, so no need of applying this SLSQL. Okay, in Canada there is no exemption. Okay, all of the firms which conduct audits, reviews of financial statement, or provide other assurance or related services should apply this SLSQL. Okay, so the new thing. Okay, so what was the previous standard? SLSQL එකට එන කලින් මොකද තිබ්බේ? මතකද? මම කිව්වා SLSQL එකට එන කලින් මොකද තිබ්බේ? What we had before 2025 we had? Yeah. Okay, that was SLSQC, Sri Lanka Standard on Quality Control. Okay, so one of the new things in this SLSQL is the risk-based approach. Okay, make a risk-based approach කියන එක මේ SLSQL 1 වලින් තමයි introduce කරේ. Okay, so what do you call as a risk-based approach? Okay, give me 1 minute. Okay, so when it comes to this risk-based approach, so we discuss about the risk. Okay, we initially discussed under the definitions that the audit firms are required to identify the risks. Okay, so they are required to use this risk-based approach in designing, implementing, and operating the components of the system of quality management in an interconnected and coordinated manner such that the firm proactively manages the quality of engagement performed by the firm. Okay, so simply what you need to get out of this is the risk-based approach tells that the audit firms are required to design, implement, and operate the components of the system of quality management framework. Okay, where they can actively identify the risk and the related responses. Okay, so how they can implement this risk-based approach is through establishing quality objectives, identify the risk, and designing and implementing the responses. Okay, එතන කොහොමද මේ risk-based approach එක apply කරන්නේ? So they should establish the quality objectives. මුලින්ම quality objectives establish කරන්න ඕනේ, and then they need to identify the risk and finally identify the responses. Okay, so remember we should identify this with regard to the components of this framework. The components ටික අපි පස්සේ ගමු. Okay, so here then as per the standard at least annually. Okay, so there should be an ultimate person who is appointed to check the system of quality management on behalf of the firm. So usually firms appoint a particular partner. Okay, quality management partner like a normal audit karana partner කෙනෙක්ම තමයි, but they appoint that partner to develop this quality management framework. Firms. Okay, to evaluate the system of quality management and concludes where the system of quality management provides a firm with reasonable assurance. Okay, so first to ensure the quality management framework development and implementation, there should be one partner, and at least annually they should review their quality management framework. Okay, the existing. So what are the new improvements that we can pick? So that should be done at least annually. අඩුම ගානේ අවුරුද්දකට එකපාරක් හරි මේ quality management framework එක review කරන එක කරන්න ඕන. Okay? And then we have this question, will do, can you do this? What is a key component of the risk-based approach in quality management? බලන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා. Eight answers. A. Okay, so first one is establishing quality objectives. Yes, first we start off with the quality objectives. So no ignoring minor quality risk, avoiding documentation of quality risk, no, delegating quality management to external consultants only. Okay, we are not required to give it to external consultants. Okay, so we should start by establishing the quality objective. Okay, so your answer should be A. Any questions from that? Any questions? ඔයාලට ෆාස්ට් වැඩිද ළමයි කරනවා ෆාස්ට් වැඩි නම් කියන්න. නෑනේ ෆාස්ට් වැඩි නෑ. Okay. So okay, thank you. Yeah, so then we have this scalability. Okay, so this is an aspect that we need to consider when implementing the risk-based approach. Okay, මේක අපේ aspect එකක් අපි consider කරන්න ඕනේ මේක ගැන when implementing the risk-based approach. Okay, so they need to, under the scalability it says, in applying the risk-based approach, the firm is required to consider the nature and circumstances of the firm and the nature and circumstances of the engagements performed by the firm. Okay, so what do you mean by this? Nature and the circumstances of the audit firm. Okay, and then the nature and circumstances of the engagements performed by the firm. අපේ nature and circumstances ගැන හිතන්නත් ඕනේ. And also we need to consider about the nature and circumstances of the engagements performed by the firm. Okay, so simply when it comes to the nature and circumstances of the firms, we should consider about the available resources. Okay, so what are the available resources with us? Okay, because for example, not everyone can do banks and the insurance companies audits. Okay, not everyone. Okay, and not all the audit firms can do this audits of banks. Okay, only big three audit firms plus I can remember two more can do the audits of the banks. That is actually noticed by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Okay, because not every organization does not have enough staff, knowledge, and experience to perform the audits. Okay, especially this banks, financial institutions, and insurance companies. So there are like a lot of different things which you can't see in the other companies. Okay, insurance industry, it's something new. Okay, so then you need to consider about the nature and circumstances of the entity, and then nature and circumstances of the so nature and circumstances of the engagement performed by the firm. Okay, අපිට එන ඔඩිට් අපිට අපේ එන ක්ලයන්ට්ලා මොන වගේ ක්ලයන්ට්ලාද ඕකේ ඒගොල්ලෝ මොන වගේ ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රීස් වලද ඉන්නේ okay කියන එක අපි කන්සිඩර් කරන්න ඕනේ okay so that is under the scalability so we have to identify what is our scale okay what type of audits that we can actually perform and whether we have enough resources to fulfill those requirements okay that is under scalability and also we are required to think about the networks and service providers okay so this SLSQL addresses the firm's responsibilities when the firm belongs to a network and the firm complies with the network requirements or uses network services in the system of quality management or in the performance engagement. Okay, so let's say if you take KPMG, EY, or Deloitte, so those are like part of the global audit firms operating in Sri Lanka. Okay, those are actually belongs to a network. Okay, so when it comes to this quality management frameworks also, so the global firm, the main bodies and the what are the requirements for the quality management. Okay, so then this SLSQL say the firm's responsibility. Firm has a responsibility to consider about this quality management framework of the other network companies if it is a part of a network. Okay අපේ තව අපි part එකක් නම් network එක global audit firm එක අපේ part එකක් නම් so we have to consider about the uh, quality management framework that they adopted okay and then uses resources from a service provider in the system of quality management or in the performance of engagement okay so if you use the resources right? So if we use this resources from a particular service provider in our quality management system, okay, or in the performing the engagements, okay. So we actually responsible to address the SLSQL if we take the service of a third party, okay, because let's say for example අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම so we get for example okay so we get the service of a particular actuarial valuer okay අපි actuarial valuer කෙනෙක්ගේ help එක ගන්නවා when it comes to the insurance industry to value the insurance liability okay so then we need to ensure that these ethics and then the relevant experience, the relevant expertise is fulfilled by this external party. So sometimes this may be one from the another country of the same network. Okay. KPMG service okay. So we need in that case we need to ensure the quality of their work as well. Okay. That's the meaning of this. Any question or did you all get the understanding or any questions? Or you want me to explain this? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Okay, then do this. When applying a risk-based approach, what factors should a firm consider? Okay. Risk-based approach apply kanavara. So what are the things that we should consider? The first one is the nature and circumstances of the firm and its engagement. Okay. Only the experience of the engagement team know that is wrong. The number of employees in the firm, no. The firm's annual revenue, no. Okay. The nature of the firm, the nature and circumstances of the firm and its engagement to be considered. Okay. And then what is the objective of this standard? Okay. So this actually aims at to design, implement and operate a system of quality management. Okay. For audit, or it can be reviews of financial statement or other assurance or related service engagements provided by the firm. Okay, so why we should develop such kind of quality management framework is to provide firm with reasonable assurance that okay, the firm and its personnel or firm and its employees fulfill their responsibilities in accordance with the professional standards and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. Okay, and conduct the engagements in accordance with such standards and requirements. Okay. Finally, the engagement reports issued by the firm or engagement partners are appropriate in the circumstances. Okay. So this actually ensures that the personnel fulfill their relevant responsibilities in accordance with this professional and the regulatory requirements. And finally, the engagement reports issued by the engagement partners are appropriate in the circumstances. What is the meaning of this? What this says? Yeah. No. Okay. Engagement reports issued by the firm or engagement partners are appropriate in the circumstances. Okay. What is the basic form of engagement reports that we issue? अभी सामान्य more frequently issue कराने. What is the engagement report? What is it? Frequently में issue करने का मुकाबला. Audit firm में का परिपूर्ण में issue कराने मुकाबला report है. Yeah, the audit opinion, we provide reasonable assurance. Yeah, that is correct. The report we call as an audit report, right? Up audit report have somebody issue so engagement report that we issue usually is the audit report. Okay. So what do you mean by the appropriateness of the audit report is basically we want to issue an audit opinion. It should be correct, right? Okay. So if you provide a true and fair view, okay, if you say the financial statements are not materially misstated in a situation where it is actually materially misstated, is it an appropriate audit opinion? අපි කියනවා the financial statements are not materially misstated. හැබැයි ඇත්තට මේක materially misstated. එතකොට අපේ audit opinion එක හරියද? Is it an appropriate audit opinion? ඇත්තටම financial statements materially misstated. හැබැයි අපි කියන audit opinion එකේ no, those are not materially misstated. ඒක appropriate audit opinion එකද නැද්ද? No, right? It is actually inappropriate. Okay? That is an incorrect audit opinion that we provide. Okay, so if the company has a good quality management framework within it, it actually reduces or else avoid the chance of issuing this inappropriate audit opinions. Okay, and it also ensures that the engagement partners have fulfilled the relevant requirements. Okay, so those are the objectives of this particular stand. Okay, so can you do this? What is the primary objective of a firm's system of quality management? B. Under SLSQM1. Okay. To maximize audit fees. No, that is totally wrong. Okay. So, to ensure compliance with professional standards and legal requirements seems to be correct. To minimize engagement documentation. To eliminate all risk in audit engagement. Okay, so to minimize the engagement documentation, that is wrong. We should have as much as engagement documentation. Luang kara apita hammena evidence ekama document karanne try karane. Okay, so then to eliminate all risk in audit engagement, we can't actually eliminate all risk. So to ensure compliance with professional standards and legal requirements is the answer or the B. Okay. So here I have given this. I don't know whether this has been updated with the old one. So which was actually available, the one I took. Okay, KPMG values. Okay, in their framework, they actually value integrity, excellence, courage, together, and better. Integrity in the sense we do what is right. Excellence in the sense we never stop learning and improving. Courage in the sense we think and act boldly. Together in the sense we respect each other and draw strength in our differences. For better, we do what matters. Okay, so this is what they value in their organization. This is an example only. Okay, so it says that under their values, they have particularly mentioned that it is committed to quality and service excellence. Okay, they are committed to ensure that the quality within the framework, within the firm. Okay, ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලන්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ companies වලත් තියෙන audit firms වලත් තියෙන මොනවාද values and how they ensure the quality. Okay, this is just a simple example. And then make update වෙලාද කියලා, and then we have the firm system of quality management. Okay, this is a very important part. In the system of quality management, we have basically 8 components. Okay, within the components අටක් තියෙනවා. So we have governance and leadership, relevant ethical requirements, acceptance and continuance of client relationships, and specific engagement, engagement performance, resources, information and communication, the monitoring and the remediation process. Okay, so then we have this final one is the firm's risk assessment processes. Okay, previously we discussed about the risks. Okay, quality related risk. So quality related risk should be identified with respect to these first 6. Okay, may හයට අදාළව quality management risks identify කරගන්න from governance and leadership up to information and communication. That risk identification part I'll discuss in the coming week, but I'll just today I'll explain about these main aspects. Okay, because we have a case study today. You need to do it at home and come for the next lecture, because at the beginning of the next week I'll be taking that case study and discuss it. Okay, what has it? One minute. Okay, so first one is governance and leadership. Okay, samaya governance and leadership කියන්නේ කාටද? The governance should be where? Governance even කොහෙද? Governance and leadership. Governance and leadership කොහෙන්ද එන්න ඕනේ? Organization එකේ does it come from the bottom or does it come from the top? Okay, yeah, very good. It is at the top of the organization. Okay, so the governance and leadership is basically the companies have partners. Okay, and if it is a corporation, there might be a CEO. Okay, so there should be a governance and leadership. Okay, so remember, with regard to the governance and leadership, the company should identify what are the quality objectives and risks, and then how to respond. Okay, and then we have this relevant ethical requirements. We discuss about the relevant ethical requirements. So that is basically the ethical requirements which have been specified by CA Sri Lanka. Okay, acceptance and continuance of clients relationships and specific engagement. Okay, so not every client is accepted at every audit firm. Okay, so we need to make an assessment of whether don't annotate on this. Take make don't touch on this. Give me 1 minute. Oh, 1 minute. I can't find from where I. I think now it should be okay. Don't annotate on this, okay? You put annotate on the phone. Okay, so there. So what I was telling is not every client is accepted, as we discussed previously. So we should have enough experience, knowledge, and resources to continue with the clients. And there are certain clients which we can identify as high risk. We know that at the beginning of the engagement, we do a huge process, right? We do an analysis of the client. Basically, we perform this KYCs, know your client. Okay, and we identify this whether this customer is a high risk customer, because there are some clients which actually engage in illegal activities. Okay, illegal activity so we can't actually provide the true and fair view about the financial statement, so we shouldn't undertake this. Okay, so a client accept yeah. So then so regarding the acceptance and continuance of the clients also, there should be specific mentioning in the quality management framework. Okay, and then engagement performance, how the engagement should be performed, what to which areas we should focus on more. All those should be discussed in this quality management framework. And the resources is very important. Okay, resource in the sense not laptops. Okay, laptop, computers, printers, or only the human resource in auditing is very much important. Okay, the human resource with relevant level of knowledge. Okay, knowledge, experience is very much important. And then information and communication, that is information and communication not only within the engagement, the information, providing information regarding this quality management framework is also important. Okay, අපි quality management framework එකක් හදලා තියාගත්තට වැඩක් නැහැ. So we should provide the information regarding the quality management framework. Okay, අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මොකද්ද අපි quality management framework එක යටතේ අනිවාර්යෙන් EQCR කියන එක appoint කරන්න ඕනේ. So it's the policy. You should communicate to other employees. Just writing it on a book is not sufficient. Okay, that should be communicated. Okay, and then the monitoring and the remediation process, that is actually monitoring of the quality management framework, and if necessary actions are required to be done, අපි quality management framework එකේ වෙනස් වෙන දෙයක් තියෙනවා. Okay, so we should introduce at this stage. And finally, we have the firm's risk assessment process. Okay, that is where the risk related to this quality management framework is built. Okay, I may take next week Ghana because we have to do a separate with the standard. What are the quality management objectives that we should identify with respect to each of these aspects, and what should be our responses and what should be our, so not this one, okay, what should be our response. Okay, next week Ghana. Okay, so any questions from what we did today? And you have a case study to be done. මොන හරි තියෙනවද ප්‍රශ්නයක් අද කරපු ඒවා වලින්?